to be a part of your lives. We've got a big group today and climbing, and I have an amazing class. I have an amazing friend on here with me. He's been a friend for a while. He provides an awesome service that we're going to share with you guys. It's really, really cool that I would highly recommend. And I got to peek inside and play around with you there, Dan. It was like, okay, dude, let me do this webinar with you, and let's just blow this up. So, Tyler, what's going on, man?
Hey, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Excellent, excellent. So, dude, tell me a little bit about like yourself and where you live. Where do you live at?
Yeah, in Lincoln, Nebraska, Scott. So the middle of nowhere, where corn and cattle all surrounded by us.
Right.
But
at least they're not
love it.
flooded like in
coal
Texas,
here
right?
at this company.
Yeah.
What's that?
At least they're not flooded in Texas, your cattle, right? Like, holy smokes.
Exactly. But yeah, I've been with coal for about 11 years now. It's my first job out of college, and so and I love it. I travel across the country, going to different events, different training events, and talking to the top agents across the country and picking their brain on what's working for them and how they're being successful. So I'd love to kind of share some of those things too with you. Definitely, Scott.
Yeah, we're going to share some of them experiences you've had with other agents and what they're doing. So, all right, guys, let's get started. So we're going to show you how to increase your daily contacts and get neighbors on the move today. And I'm going to share with you some real-life stories that I just had yesterday with a really good friend of mine. She's a real estate agent not too far from me, and I want to share a couple of those. I won't say any names, but she probably wouldn't care. She's awesome. So to start off with, Tyler, this is for every business in the country. I had a friend in here that was actually a friend of, Vicky's sister was in here yesterday, and she has a, I'm not going to say it right, so I'll just say she has a business. And we were talking about 4 parts to every sale. And as a real estate agent, you have traffic. You have buyers and sellers coming in. You have past database referrals. You have CPAs, financial planners, insurance agents. There's just different traffic coming in at different times, right? People you meet on the plane or at an event, or that's what we do those events. So that's traffic. Relationships are how the traffic that comes in that actually physically meets you, how they feel about you. And if you are, a people person, obviously most of us in sales are people person. They build relationships really quick. They kind of stand out in the room, and they're the one talking, and then people want standing around them, and you kind of know who those people are. So those are relationships, how they feel about you. And then you have call to action, where you have to, like, we're in sales, and a lot of people call and they tell me, like, I don't feel like, I don't want to ask for the business because, like, I don't feel like being salesy. And it's like, so I tell this story, and this is a quick story. So say I sell tires, okay, Tyler? I sell tires, and I'm driving down the road, and Tyler, you're on the side of the road, and you have a flat tire. And I go, man, dude, I know I got a tire on my truck for this guy, but you know what? I don't want to stop because I don't want to seem salesy, right? Like, but I can help you. I know that I can, in my heart, help you, and you're stranded. You have a problem. So when somebody's looking for a home, when somebody's looking to sell a home, they're asking for your help. It's not you being salesy. You just have to build a deep relationship, have a call to action, ask for the business. But more importantly, when people know, like, and trust you, they love to help other people, which means if you ask them, hey, who do you know that's thinking about buying a home of your friends, family, and coworkers on a regular basis, I can guarantee you're going to get more leads, right?
Absolutely.
Just top of mind. And then follow-up. Most people that have traffic and relationships that aren't closing a lot of business have a issue with call to action and follow-up. People that have no traffic, obviously there's no call to action, no follow-up, because there's nobody to to ask for the business and follow up. So you need to ask yourself, where is my bottleneck? And then we're going to cover each one of these, not in like great detail, but in a way that will give you ideas of how to fill the bottle of each. I call it buckets. Like, how do I fill the traffic bucket and relationship bucket and call to action bucket and follow-up bucket? And if I'm doing all 4 of those, it's amazing what actually happens to your business because you're just clicking on all cylinders. Make sense?
Absolutely.
All right. So today, here's our agenda: mindset, daily schedule, branding, money-making activities. I'm going to give you a little exercise that I want everybody to do. Case studies, scripting ideas, and dude, I read these scripts, man. They're like really good. Follow-up tactics, and then product overview. And I'm going to show you how crazy this stuff is and how fast like literally how fast in 90 days you could literally turn your life upside down with doubling, tripling, quadrupling your business. Okay, it's just a matter of interacting and like participating in your own success, right? So here's some stats. Most, and this is like, I don't know, this 80-20 thing is really big for me. So in most markets, 90% of the transactions are done by the top 10% of the agents in the area. Here's the funny thing about that is I was out fishing on a charter boat. We were king salmon in South Haven, and the guy, like, I don't know where he come up with it. He just says, hey, did you know that 90% of the fish are in 10% of the water? I'm like, dude, really? Like, that fits for everything. I don't know if you know this, but 20%, like 80% of the people travel on 20% of the roads. Think about this, right? 80% of your headaches are 20% of the people that you work with, right? Like it's just common. It's just how it works over and over. So most people spend, and this is where most people fail. Most people spend 80% of their time on the activities that make them 20% of their money. Creative avoidance, Facebook, email. I got to do this flyer. I got to do this. I got to do that. Like, oh, the font isn't right, or like they spend hours and hours and hours doing stuff that doesn't pick up the phone or connect, engage, and interact with their past database. So so the sad part is 8 out of 10 agents fail in the first 2 years, and it's because they're focusing on the wrong stuff. It's so basic what it actually takes to be successful, and it's just building relationships. But we get scared of, like, I could go on to different classes and different tangents, but fear of failure, fear of the no, fear of looking stupid, fear of just all these fears that come into place for people that don't that just don't make it, and so they just stop doing it and they start to go into creative avoidance. So to keep the ball rolling here, what are your goals? And I love asking this question. So if you had to wake up tomorrow morning, Tyler, and say the perfect real estate business for me is this, that's going to get me 12 months down the road, but then also is going to let me punch out and hit the finish line maybe 10 years from now, 5 years from now, maybe 2 years from now, I don't know, depending on where you're at, right? So do you want to go from 10 to 20, one additional transaction per month, from 20 to 30, 50, 100? Like yesterday, my conversation with a good friend of mine was, I don't really need to close more transactions, but how do I make more money, do the same amount of transactions, and actually check out a little bit, like enjoy life more? Like I don't want to show buyer. Like if I double my business, she closed 40 transactions last year. So she says, if I double my business, that means I'm going to be out showing homes more. I'm like, no, that means somebody's going to be out showing homes more, right? Doesn't have to be you. If you say, and you need to write this down, how do I blank without blank? How do I show more homes without physically showing more homes? How do I call my past database once every 3 months without actually me calling my database every 3 months, right? It's called help. It's called other people doing it for you. So I said to her, why don't you just say, I'm not showing homes Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and find someone to show the homes Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, whatever you want to do. Like maybe it's the weekends. I don't want to show homes on the weekend. I want my weekend for my family. I just want to be able to punch out and check out. So we talked about, and the more I think about this conversation, the more I think I should get her on here and have that conversation again, because I think a lot of people would benefit from it.
I agree.
So I'll talk to her about that. So you need to be having more conversations about buying and selling real estate with people who already know you, and continue to build up this list with people who don't. Make sense?
Yep, exactly.
Like there's no shiny whistle here. Interviewing hundreds of agents. So we still to this day, I love having conversations with agents that are just killing it, or maybe kind of on the cusp of breaking through. They just can't quite get there. One of the biggest challenges most people have is they react to everything. They react to anything that happens all day long, and then at the end of the day, they're like, man, what a busy day, but I didn't get anything done, right? Because they're chase, react to a phone call, react to an email, react to a Facebook post, all the stuff that is, like, none of that was on their schedule, and then if there was anything on their schedule, they're just bypassing it for whatever happens. So you got to be really specific on what you want to accomplish on a daily basis. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. Know your numbers. And I'm going to show you a little exercise here. It's pretty cool. So 50 60 to 70% of transactions come from past clients, most all the time. Most of them are 75% or higher once you have a database. 10 to 20% from expireds, 10 to 20% from just listed, just sold. I'm gonna show you how to crank this number up. Tyler and I are on the just listed, just sold, and the expireds and fizzles and all that stuff. We're gonna show you how to just unleash on this. It's scary how powerful this is. Dedicate at least 3 hours in your schedule each day to prospect for new business. I'm gonna give you a little exercise here in a minute. People you have not met before, to have at least 15 to 25 conversations a day. Dedicate at least 2 hours each day to follow-up calls. Utilize your CRM with your past database. And what a lot of people do is they'll go A's and B's one day or 1 week, C's and D, and then if you go through the alphabet with the letters of the, depending on how big your database is, you typically every 3 months will go through your database. Make sense? 20 days, a month, and so that kind of works really good. There's 26 letters, I believe, so that puts you through your whole database in 3 months. Okay, here's a question for you, and the reason I'm showing this will make sense in a minute. Who on this call right now sees an arrow in this logo? And the cool part about this is nobody can see everybody's hands, but does anybody see an arrow in this logo? All right, one person sees it? I do, okay. And this will make sense. So a lot of people see it. Okay, cool. So a lot of people see it. And okay, so there's probably people that don't. So let me just show you where that is. Check that out. So there's the arrow in this FedEx logo, okay? Now, here's the tougher one. Who sees the measuring spoon in this logo? Anybody see the measuring spoon? Anybody not see the measuring spoon in this logo? Anybody not see the measuring spoon? Okay, okay, cool. All right, here's the measuring spoon. Whoops. There's the measuring spoon. So what this logo is telling you that we are always moving forward and we measure everything. Isn't that cool? I thought that was pretty cool. So
I've never seen that before, Scott. That's awesome.
Isn't that neat? Yeah, so it's funny, there was a lady in here from FedEx yesterday, and I showed Vicki. I'm like, check this logo out. I said, see the arrow? You see the measuring spoon? I said, it's just always moving forward, track, measure everything. So here's my challenge for everybody on this call. And guys, I'm going to be able to give you reasons to do this, but challenge for you. So grab a stopwatch, hang it around your neck, and every time you, during the day, do money-making activities only. Now, playing on Facebook doesn't count. In your email doesn't count. Making a flyer doesn't count. You know what I mean? So anytime you do money-making activity, building a relationship, handwritten postcards, and you don't even need to do that. Somebody can do it for you. Click go. Okay? Money-making activity, click go. When you're done, click stop. At the end of the day, how much time did you spend doing money-making activities? And I'm guessing most people that are struggling a little bit, or even very successful people, get tied up in the minutia, are spending 80% of their time that's making them 20% of their money. So if you go and flip that stopwatch to 20% of your time is spent on the 80% of your money, think about that. Now, 20% of your time is spent on the part that makes you 80% of your money. What would that look like? And you don't know what that is until you actually track what the money-making activities are that got you to where you're closing 3, 4, 5 deals a month. Make sense? Amazing exercise, and it'll freak you out a little bit if you, just don't show your significant other when you get home, like how much time you actually spent growing your business. All right? Cool. All right. Next, common traits of top producers. Prospecting, picking up the phone. Do not confuse with marketing. Marketing, spending 2 hours printing labels. Like I hear a lot of people go, man, it took me 2 hours to print them labels. Seriously, I go down to Kinko's or have somebody go to Kinko's for me or whatever the office places are. Hey, print these, and in fact, you can email them to them and say, hey, print me 100 of these or 200 of these or whatever. Someone else can always do that for you. So here's a little exercise, and I'm going to actually do this. So grab, oops, not an arrow, I want a pen. A pen, there we go. So figure out how much you made. So like say you made $250,000 last year, $250,000. I want you to divide that by 2,080, which is 40 hours a week, 52 weeks. All right? That number is what you need to put on your computer. So fill in whatever money you made, and I think it's $120 an hour, right? So it's $120 an hour that you make. So you need to ask yourself, is what I'm doing right now $120 an hour work? And would you hire somebody, would you pay someone $120 an hour to do that, what you're doing right now? Or like when you're doing your email or Facebook or whatever you're doing, would you pay someone $120 an hour to do it? The girl, the lady I asked yesterday, she's like, she said a bad word and she's put no after it. You know, so it's like, that's what you need to put on your computer. Am I doing $120 an hour? Now think about this. If you go to 500, this goes to 240. If you go to 750, think about where this goes, because the more you focus on this, the higher it goes. It's less is more. The less you do, the more you make, because you're focusing on the 20% that makes you 80% of your money. Make sense? And as that grows, that 20% changes. All right. So Tyler, you want to explain this one a little bit? So The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, taking life head on.
You know, it's funny, whenever I talk to agents and these successful agents, a lot of them will say that they're on schedule. You know, they have a lot of the same traits that you just were talking about here before this. But all these people are morning people. They get up and they exercise and they play some jams and get going in the morning. And so I've seen this Hal Elrod a few times, speak over the years. And so he talks about, and he had a major life event where, he basically died in a car accident and they had to resurrect him. But then after that, he realized, every time he would snooze on his alarm every morning, he basically was telling life, it's not good enough to wake up. And once he had this life-changing event, he realized life is a miracle. It's the miracle morning every morning. So if you guys are trying to get there and figure out a way to, to start your morning right and get pumped up, check out some of his YouTube videos and watch one of them, and it will just try to, put, one thing that for me after going to that, I had a newborn at home who loved getting up super early, but he was so happy in the morning as well. And so after I went to one of these events and saw Hal talk, it made me, every time my son Finn woke up at 4:30 in the morning, I woke up too excited to see him, because if you think about things a little bit differently that way.
Absolutely, man. And someone, Yolanda just said she read the book and it changed her life. So just one recommendation we got here. So talk about this guy, Eric John.
So he's an awesome agent up in the New Jersey area, and so he shared with us just his daily schedule. So again, like you had said, it's all about having goals and keeping to a schedule. So he shares and says, at 4:45 I wake up, drink coffee, pray, meditate. He exercises every morning, so spends an hour every morning exercising, eats a healthy breakfast, and then puts it on his calendar that every morning he's going to arrive at the office and start getting to work, start doing prep work to get going. He then role plays with an agent, so he spends a half hour every morning, and it's not even an agent in his office, it's an agent across the country that he met, I think, through a Facebook group or something like that, where every morning they hold each other accountable and they practice scripts and dialogue, that sort of thing. And then spend 15 minutes on himself, on his mindset. Yeah. So he reviews his goals, watches some videos, and then he dedicates 3 hours every morning for lead generation, for prospecting, to talking to his past centers of influence, past customers, but then also calling expireds and FSBOs and neighborhood prospecting around just listed and just solds. And he knows, Scott, that it's a contact sport. So his goal is to have 25 conversations every day and tries to get 2 new listing appointments, and wants to add agents to his database as well. And so, but he writes all this down, and he's dedicated about it. And he talks too about how just accountability is so big. And so you think about it. Like, my wife's a big runner. She gets up every morning and runs, but she runs with a group of other ladies because she knows there's going to be days where she might not want to roll out of bed and might want to hit the snooze. But if she has Jessica waiting in our driveway to go for a run that morning, she knows she has to get up. And so I'd encourage everybody on this call to find one of those accountability partners. So it could be an agent in your office, or it could be an agent across the country that you met on, a mastermind group like this, just to hold each other accountable and go over how many people did you call today, how many people did you reach out to, how many contacts did you make, how many listing appointments have you been on this week.
There you go. Here's what I do is I have a couple friends that I do this with because I want to be held accountable on a high standard. Like when I say I want to do this in the next 2 weeks, and they say, okay, I want to do this in the next 2 weeks, we write each other a $2,000 check. And if I don't do what I say I'm going to do within the next 2 weeks, they get to cash that check, and vice versa. If he doesn't do what I say, like if he doesn't do what he says he wants to do, I get to cash his check. No hard feelings. It's just part of accountability. So it's amazing how we call each other on day 2 or 3 or 4, depending on what we say we want to do, how that is done. Like, hey, here's the and it's not about doing it. It's about what's the results that are going to yield from me doing this. And so there's always results. I want it results-based because what's the sense of doing something if it doesn't free up more time, increase my coolness factor, generate buyer leads, generate seller leads? What does it really matter if it's not doing something to get me to that, right? And in fact, all the above. So what's this case study, brother?
Yeah, so the same thing. Here's an agent down in the Austin area, and again, another agent that I interviewed that I've met numerous times where Glenn will say, he prospects every morning from 9 to 12. He has it on his calendar, and he does it Monday through Thursday, and then he realizes, well, I'm not going to be able to, call everybody that I want to. I'm not going to answer their phone from 9 to 12, so he will switch it up to evenings sometimes. And so he'll call his hot leads every morning. He calls FSBOs and expired leads where he can find a phone number. He calls, any hot lead that he might generate from some sort of site that he, like home valuation leads, things like that. He calls those first thing in the morning. But his goal is to have 20 conversations a day. And so in order to do that, he knows that he's going to have to then call around, maybe around just listed, just solds, because he hasn't dedicated enough time. There's not enough people to call to dedicate for that 3 hours. And so he just knows is that, hey, I want to try to get 100 contacts every week, and then he captures information when he talks to these people, adds it to a CRM for future follow-up. Then his afternoon, he dedicates to focus on follow-ups of hot leads that he's already generated by talking to other folks. And then from 2 to 5 is business and appointments. So he tries to have as much as possible an 8 to 5 schedule every day, so then he can be at home with his family on evenings and not get burned out by the job as well.
Right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I called in an hour and a half this morning. It's not about, we talk about like more leads. Like one of the conversations we had about with my friend yesterday was she's doing this farming to this area, and I said, okay, share this with me first. Where did your last 4 leads come from? And she said, they came from Path Database. 99.9% of my leads come from Path Database, people that know, like, and trust me, I've done business with. And she goes, I really filter that list. I don't just throw people in there that I met at the store or I met at an event. If I truly did business with them, they go in my database. I'm like, cool. So 100%. I said, what do you do with those people? Like, how do you connect, engage, interact with them? She goes, well, I send that, she goes, you're going to probably slap me, but I send them 1 calendar or a magnet per year. And I said, okay, let's talk about this. So what if you, and remember, how do I blank without blank? I said, what if you called I can guarantee you that if you called every single person in the next 2 weeks, that you would have anywhere from 6 to 9 deals on your desk, either buying and selling a home. I can almost promise you, right? We see 1 to 3 leads per 100 that come in from connecting, engaging, and going deep with our database. It's not about wide, it's about deep, growing relationships. So I said, why don't you pick up the phone, and this will tie into what we're going to show at the end of how to really, like if you're starting out as a new agent or you just like don't have enough traffic or don't have enough relationships, we're going to show you how to literally do that in the next 30 days, like on steroids. So what I said was, why don't you, is there somebody in your office that can call these people for you? And I talked about phone burner, and there's been a class on that. I talked about monthly mailer. I said, how much are you spending marketing to this farm area, the people that don't know, like you, and trust you yet? And she's like, well, it's about $100. It's 100 people, $100. I'm like, okay. What if you spent that same $100 on a lottery ticket to, like, and so the script goes, hey, I was in the store the other day, and I don't know what it was that made me think of you, but I just wanted to try and, I just bought this lottery ticket for you, and I hope you win. 3 days later, you call the person, so you send out 100 of these lottery tickets, and you call them, and you say, hey, did you win? And you have a conversation with your past database.
Exactly.
That know, like, and trust you. And then remember, you got to have the call to action. You're doing the follow-up. The call to action is, hey, by the way, who of your friends, family, or coworkers can I help? And they're going to go, man, I don't know of anybody right now. But, it's just putting it to the front of their mind that you are in the business. You're reminding them of who you are and what you do for a living. And she goes, and then I said, most people come to me and go, Scott, I haven't talked to him in 3 years. Okay, so your car, how long have you owned your car? Tyler, how long have you owned your car?
2 years. My Tahoe for 2 years.
2 years. So if the guy that sold you your car hadn't talked to you for 2 years and he calls you today, and he says, Tyler, holy crap, man, how you doing, bro? Hey, you going to drive them wheels? I mean, you can drive that car till the wheels fall off, or what? Like, what's going on, man? How's the car?
Exactly. And what's funny is my wife is ready to trade it in and is ready for a new vehicle.
Exactly. So you would start the conversation so people don't think about us as much as we think they do or like them to. They don't sit around and go, I can't believe, like Tyler's not sitting around going, I can't believe that guy has never called me about my car. That is so, just like, oh my God, another day went by, another day. It's like people don't think about us like that. So I just want to throw that out there. Like, so if you're thinking, man, I haven't connected with my database in like ever, guess what? They would love to hear from you. And some, you're going to get calls going, oh man, I'm so bummed. We just bought a new house, or we just listed. And that's the calls you never want to have. And those are the calls you never will have if you stay in front of your database. And then we're going to show you how to grow that database here in just a second.
Yeah, exactly. So, and here's just another example of an agent here. He's in the Virginia area, works for Century 21, and again, it's about a schedule. So again, from 8 to 11, he schedules to make those calls, and
right.
And then from 11 to 1, he switches over and he calls and does the follow-ups and calls like people you were saying, past clients, centers of influence,
right.
And then from 2 to 6, appointments, right. And so what I love about Ron is that he hasn't paid for any other sort of advertising. So the only costs that he's paid for are he bought a subscription to our product, which is the neighborhood phone numbers, which we'll talk to about in a bit. He did. Yep. He subscribed to an auto dialer that you kind of talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And that's it. He doesn't pay for any hot leads. He doesn't pay to for things that cost hundreds or thousands of dollars per month.
Yep.
His cost is so low for doing this. And
right.
he's on pace. Last time I talked to him in the end of November, he's on pace to do 50 transactions for 2014.
Awesome. Hey, dude, let's do this. Let's do. Let me just find out how to actually make you the presenter. Let's go into your system. So, what we wanted to show. I kind of wanted to, for the first half hour, set the mindset, show you guys what people are doing, and then show you. I want to show you now how they are doing this. And dude, it's so mind-blowing. I get chills thinking about it. So I'm going to throw it over to you if you're cool with that.
Yeah, sounds great.
Make you presenter. All right, there you go. And then let's, so what this system does, and here's the hardest part. So here's several ways that you can use this, and I don't have a PowerPoint telling me what to say. And most of the time, you guys don't know this about me, but most of the time I'm just off the cuff because stuff comes to mind, and I do better that way, but PowerPoint keeps me on track. So what this system does, and all you do is, click this. So what this system does is, say you have a just listed, you have a just sold, you have an expired listing that came up, you have
You're hosting an open house. How about that?
Open house. Yeah, so we just covered open houses last week on how to hold an open house.
Yep.
And so here's the open house. And you're like, how do I connect, engage, and interact with everyone? Is walk the street. Please walk the street and tell everybody, hand everybody information about, knock on the doors. Like I would literally, if I had to start tomorrow and start over, I would literally walk out there and I would find the richest neighborhood in my town, and I would find a listing and I would call that agent and I would say, hey, do you mind if I do an open house this Sunday? Cool. And then I would make up a really nice flyer, and I would walk around to all these homes going, hey, this is Scott. I'm having an open house. I would personally have a barbecue at that house, and I would invite everybody in the neighborhood to the barbecue.
Right.
Because what do people love? People love free food. It's not about, like, guys, it's not about the house. It's about the relationships that you build
Correct.
with the actual listing. So if I can use somebody else's listing to have an open house and a barbecue to meet everybody within a 10-mile radius of that house, and it cost me $1,000, $2,000, do you think that I'm going to write a small check to cash a really big check of, like the agent yesterday that I talked to, she's like, I said, what's your average commission? She goes, I'm at about $200,000 for my minimum loan amount. I said, that's so $6,000. I said, so if I had to spend $2,000 on an open house to make 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 more deals because I'm building a relationship of 20, 30, 40, 50, do you think if I do the 4 things, I build a relationship, I do a call to action every time I talk to them in a cool way, and I follow up with them, you think that I'm going to build relationships for long term that are going to buy and sell from me and refer their friends, family, and coworkers? No question.
Exactly.
So let's just say that we did an open house on 2647 14th Street in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yep, so my old neighborhood. I recently moved here, but this is an old neighbor of mine. So yeah, you would just type in that starting point address. So it could be any address in general that you'd want to basically, call around or find information about that specific address. So, for example, maybe you saw this show up as like a partial lead under a home valuation site that you're generating leads that way, but you don't have a phone number. You type in that specific address, and it will tell you who we have tied to that address per se. So I found a starting point address here. So Shane and Heather McNeese, they're old neighbors of mine. So you can see that we have their address here, and then we actually have their cell phone. So it looks like they don't have a landline anymore, but we have a cell phone for each of them. Okay, so like you said, but maybe we want to call and we just listed the property or just sold the property and wanted to let the neighbors know of that good news.
Absolutely.
Or you just had an open house and you want to invite the neighbors to the open house. A very non-intrusive way to have conversations with neighbors. And so what our system will say is, do you want everybody up and down that street around those folks? Do you want to do a radius? So you could go in here and say, I want everybody within a quarter mile or a half mile. It depends on, how sparsely populated that area is per se. But our most popular search here is this map search that I want to show Scott. And
I love the map search, man.
What's nice about this, I've been with Cole, like I said, for 11 years, and forever we had agents asking, well, I want to search by subdivision. And there's no easy way to, find Pine Oak subdivision. Because, subdivisions are kind of goofy. There's old parts of the subdivision, new parts of the subdivision. But what this does is actually connects to Google, gives you an aerial view of that subdivision per se. And I just started shading the areas that I wanted to grab for my list. And I'm going to hit view available prospects. And it probably takes about 30 seconds here to load up. But real time now, I'm going to have a list of all those immediate neighbors, whether it's 50 or 500 or 5,000, that I can then do something with to make them actionable.
And here's the cool part. Here's the cool part. Sandra is asking, I'm a new agent. How can I still do this without cash? Here's the best part about, and we talked about an open house and doing the big shindig with the barbecue and all that stuff. That's not necessary. Here's the thing. We're in a relationship type business. If you give people information, introduce who you are, and what typically happens when the new listing goes up in a neighborhood? Everybody knows this. Typically 2 or 3 or 4, I mean, in my neighborhood it was 4, I think, went up after one got listed. Every single time, it's just like clockwork. Because one, if you're going to sell, you might as well do it when somebody else is selling and getting more traffic, right?
Correct.
People are going to be driving down this house to look at that house, so they got to drive right by my house to get there. Oh, my house is for sale too, so that gives them something else to look at, call on. And how many, I wish we could track this, Tyler. I wonder how many times another house that shows up after a listing that's before the house in the neighborhood that they got to drive by, how many times they call the agent and go, hey, how much is that house? Is that similar to the one we're looking at? I'll bet you the percentage is through the roof. So what do you got here, man? What do you got here on this?
Yeah, so this is all the information now. So here's all the folks that showed up in the area that I shaded, and so we had 848 folks of households that came up in that shaded area. So you'll see here, we have their name, we have their address, and then we'll have 2 columns here as well. So we have their home phone, and about 50% of homeowners, actually 58% of homeowners still have a landline. So there's still lots and lots of people that call on their landlines, Scott. But we also now have an upgraded package that would include cell phones, and you can see there's a cell phone column here as well where it starts filling in the gaps that people who no longer have a landline, or will give you a second contact phone number for those folks as well. And the difference is this is my old neighborhood where it was a lot of first-time home buyers who lived in that neighborhood, kind of a younger generation, so a lot less people had a landline. Whereas the new neighborhood that I live in now is a little bit more established. The average age is a little bit older. And so if I look at my new subdivision that I live in, about 70% of those people, almost 80%, have a landline. So that's
the big question coming in. The big question coming in is like, what about the do not call registry? And I know I asked you this, and the answer was great. I know a lot of people call anyway, but show us what you got for that.
Yeah. So I don't have it loaded up here, but if you wanted to know which numbers were okay to call and which ones are DNC, we'd actually have you do an extra step. It's free of charge. You basically go into the FTC website, the government website, and register your company, let them know you might be doing some cold calling. And when we do that, we'd activate just next to the phone number. It would say OK or DNC next to the phone. So you can decide who you want to call or not. Now, I am not a lawyer by any means, Scott, and I want you guys
I'm not either.
to do what everybody's comfortable with.
Right.
But what I'd say is I'd pose this question to you is if you're holding an open house and your clients, Jim and Linda, said, hey, go ahead and call the neighbors and invite them to an open house.
Yeah, and let me just stop you right there because I think that's a huge deal. So what you just said, and I don't want to pass over this because this is a big deal. So let me just reiterate what you just said. So you do an open house. You ask the sellers, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, do you mind if I call the neighbors and use your name?
Absolutely.
To say that I'm having an open house on your home, is that okay with you that I use your home? And is it okay if I give the information to all your neighbors?
And you know what? And I guarantee Mr. and Mrs. Seller would say, yeah, go ahead. If it's going to help sell my house, do whatever you have to do. And I would even step back a little bit here as well, Scott, and say, you know what you could do is on your listing appointment, the first time you get a listing appointment, and say, you know what? Something that I will do that most agents in town would never do is I'll actually call all of your closest neighbors and ask them if they know of anybody who's looking in the neighborhood. Now's the time for you to pick your new neighbors. Would you happen to know someone who's looking to buy in this neighborhood? Or I want to give you a call because Jim and Linda just listed their house with me. There's going to be a lot of extra cars in the neighborhood, some cars you're probably not familiar with, and so I wanted to give you a heads up on that in case you had any questions.
And then we have this script. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And then what happens is then you start having conversations. So if they hang up on you or they say, that's fine, great, and you can tell, you can read people, their tone, then you end the conversation. But then if you say, oh, well, how long have you been in the neighborhood? What do you like about the neighborhood? What brought you here? Have you thought about moving yourself? Or, and you start looking for buying and selling signs during those conversations too.
Yeah, and we have those scripts is what I was going to say. We have those scripts. So the scripting idea is there's a just listed. So, hey, my name is X, and I'm with XYZ Realty. I'm sure you recently saw the for sale at 123 Test Drive. I'm not sure if you know the owners, Brenda and Dan Martin, but they asked me to personally give you a call to see if you know of any who might want to move into the neighborhood. If you have any questions about the property, my number is blank. I promised my client that I would call all the neighbors to see if they know of anyone who wants to move into the neighborhood, just like you just said. Whatever their house lists for and sells for directly impacts the value of homes. Because you're just down the street from them, would you like to know what that sells for? Would you like me to connect with you and kind of follow up with you? Follow up, remember? Call to action, follow up. Do not make it a sales call, make it an informational call only. Only information, you're only looking to give information and build the relationship.
Yep. And so I have an agent that I work with quite a bit, Don Bass. He's a Keller Williams agent in the Michigan area. And what he says, Scott, when he makes phone calls, he has these three things in the back of his mind, is that when he makes calls or does door knocking, whatever it is obviously his main goal is to get a listing appointment. That's the main goal. But if that doesn't happen, Then he's asking them for a referral. Oh, do you have any in-laws that are looking to move closer to this area? Or do you know of any neighbors who thought about selling? That sort of thing. Or just permission to stay in touch. So a listing appointment, a referral, a permission to stay in touch. And when I say that, Scott, I mean, let's say during that conversation they say, we're not ready to sell now. We love our house, but, our son graduates next May. They graduate in about a year from now. And when that happens, we're definitely going to be thinking about maybe, downsizing.
Right.
Okay, well, then that's where ask them for permission to stay in touch. Okay, great. How about I get your email address and I'll send you market updates as homes,
is it okay to stay in touch from time to time?
Exactly.
Is it okay to stay in touch from time to time? And to call to action, that's your call. It doesn't always have to be for a sale. The call to action isn't always sell by. It's always relationship based. Lisa's asking, hey, what do we tell the seller or the neighbor, not the seller, what do we tell the neighbor if they ask for how did you get my number? But tell them, hey, I got your number through a service. It's public knowledge. I mean, for you to not make these calls because they might ask these questions is, I don't know, in my opinion, ludicrous, because if they ask you, just freaking be honest. Just transparency, Hey, the neighbors asked me to call you, and I asked them if they had your number. Our neighborhood has a list of every neighbor in the neighborhood, their address and phone number, and who's all in the family. Literally, somebody call me, I could give them any neighbor in my neighborhood, the number. Yep. And so, not that I would, but I'm just saying it's public. All this stuff is credit cards, for God's sake. People broke into what was it, Chase, and or whatever, this Visa card. You know what I mean? Stuff is more public than you think. It's kind of crazy out there. So
yeah, and even then, I subscribe. As a productive agent in the neighborhood, or I subscribe to services that give me that information. Give me those phone numbers. The reason I was calling though is that John and Linda up the street, they asked me to personally give you a call to see if if they know of anybody might want to move into the neighborhood or invite you to an open house, and then go back to the script.
Right.
And we have all those as well here. So if agents did sign up, Scott, here at the top when you log in, we have a PDF for scripting ideas. We have videos where we've interviewed agents and they've kind of shared us their tips to success and things like that as well.
Here's another script. So just sold. Dan and Linda Martin wanted me to call you and share the great news. Their house just sold for 98% of the asking price at $220 after only 14 days on the market. As you know, as soon as one house sells, typically 2 to 3 neighbors list their house soon after. If you have any questions about the selling process Dan and Linda went through, please let me know. It's using social proof. Social proof is so huge. Yep. If I was to come on this call and say, hey guys, I am the best PowerPoint doer in the world. I do the best PowerPoints on planet Earth. Or if I come on and say, hey, you know what? People say that I'm the best PowerPoint doer in the world. Which is better, right? So, hey,
exactly.
People told me I'm really good at marketing homes. Instead of I'm really good at marketing homes, people said, man, I don't know, my friends tell me I got a knack for I don't know, just putting it out there on the marketplace, on the internet and all that stuff. I don't know, whatever. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a non-ego way to do it, and it sounds so much better, and it's social proof. So, great script. Here's just sold. So, go ahead, man. So let's go back. You want to go back to the PowerPoint, or you got something else you want to show them on that?
No, I mean that's the gist of it here. I mean, ours is a great way to go up there and just basically find phone numbers.
Do this. So do this one more time. Do my address. I want to show them. This stuff is so cool. We did mine the other day.
Yeah, if you sign up, Scott, you just get access to the state that you're in. And so I only have Nebraska where I'm loaded up.
Okay. So I'd have to do it myself. Okay, hold on one sec. So let me just show you this. So I'm in Michigan. I'll take the screen back here in just a second. And it's just so cool. I just let me just see where it's at.
Yeah. And so while you're doing that, Scott, what I would tell everybody too. So it's a great way, to find phone numbers. So whether it's expires that come up in your MLS every morning that you're trying to find a phone number for. Whether it's partial leads, I just talked about earlier on home valuation leads that you generate, where folks type in a starting point address to get a home valuation request, or to find the neighbors. So right now too, with inventory being so low, it's just a great way to reach out to the neighbors, knowing that I think NAR did a statistic a while back that said 70% of sellers will only interview one agent to sell their home. And so how do you become top of mind? How do you have those relationships with these folks prior to them listing their house.
Right on, right on. I think mine's. Let me see if I'm doing this right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know how long they did it. They did my login good for. So yeah, it's not working. No, it worked. Here we go. All right, so let me just take this back over, and this is so cool. Yeah. So hey, why I'm doing this? One, help me with what I'm doing, but also share how does somebody? Is there like a trial? Or is there like how do I get this system? What do I do to go to get this? Whoops.
Yeah, so I would just have you call you can go to our website, just ColeRealtyResource.com. And all of our information, there's a phone number. You can fill out, a demo request, things like that as well. But make sure to call and mention this mastermind class. Mention Agent Mastermind. It will get you a discounted rate as well. And so if you call in, they'll give you a demo. Can I show you how it works? And we have different subscription plans. We have one that's as low as $39.95 a month. And that's what the discount. And that would get you landlines. And like I said, lots of people still have landlines, so there's lots of people to call. We have some upgraded subscriptions that would get you access for the entire year and with cell phones as well. And then if you want to get the cell phones with the landlines, it's about $100 a month. If you go that route too, Scott.
And it's so $100 a month, and I can have cell phones, unlimited everything. Like I can literally do search after search after search after search in my area.
Correct. Yep, exactly. So, there's no limitations other than you. Yep. So you went in there and put in your address, and go in there and take out. Just put an Autumn. Don't worry about sport. And then so less is better.
Okay.
And go in there and take the city name out as well. Less is better, just to make sure.
I think I just put. Okay, cool. All right. State is required. So.
Yeah, all right, and we're live.
Oh, you guys give me Indiana and Ohio. You guys give me Indiana and Ohio.
So you get access. Your zip code must be kind of like in the border of a couple of zip codes as well.
I think I just put.
Take out your house number for me, just to make sure in case we didn't have that specific address, and then just go put in a zip code.
Okay.
So take out the house number. And just put in your.
Oops.
Just a street. Okay. So all we're doing is we're putting Autumn and the zip code, because we're trying to find at least one starting point address.
There you go.
Up and down. Cool. So maybe your particular address wasn't in there for some reason. There could be a zillion reasons why. But here's 100, a bunch of neighbors. And we're just going to pick the first one that came up. And then below, go to the very bottom, and it's going to ask you, Scott, who do you want to count? Do you want everybody to put down that street, a radius, or mapping out? And so this is a neighborhood you're familiar with, right? Is this your?
Absolutely. Yep. This is it.
So you're around the lake.
It's small. Yep.
Yep. So as a pinpoints down the top.
Boulevard, West Cale Avenue.
Yep.
This looks wrong.
Freeform plotting at the very top. So you're gonna say I want to freeform plot my area.
Oh, okay. Cool. Okay.
Yep. And then just click around
I think this is the wrong one. Let me just close out of this here. Let me go back to Autumn Glen. That's the right road.
Gotcha. I brought up anything that started with Autumn. There we go.
Yeah.
Yep. So Autumn Way, Autumn Glen. So there's a few different. So we typed in Autumn. There we go.
Yeah, it's still pulling up the wrong one. No, it's on KL, but there must be another Autumn Way Boulevard. So.
Okay, but this kind of gives the gist, right? If you map out that area.
Yeah. Right. Which is cool. So so go to, I guess if you guys, let's just go to, I want to go back to a couple of these. I love these scripts. So build your pipeline. So let's see, there's some other scripts in here too. Here's some other, Saturday I called specific neighborhood. Let me blow this up here from the start, current slide. Saturday I called a specific neighborhood that I've sold a few homes in this year, 3 hours, 128 numbers dialed, 30 contacts made, 7 good leads that will sell in the next 3 years. 3 of them will sell this spring, and 4th, one set an appointment to meet next week. They have a rental to sell now. They will sell their personal home in spring and buy a larger home in their trifecta of real estate. So it's just crazy.
Yeah, so what I loved about when I talked to Ron is that he had scheduled, he was one of those guys, again, that he scheduled dedicated time every morning to prospecting. Well, what happened is he got behind one of the weeks. He's like, okay, I got to go in Saturday. I'm just going to make my phone calls. I said I was going to do it. And that's what he got was, got on the phone and created some nurtures for him to follow up with. And what he talks about is, take notes on every lead, any conversation you have. So whether it's son graduating from high school or you're going on a fishing trip, write that down, whether it's in an Excel spreadsheet, keep track of those notes, or put it on an index card, whatever it is. And that way when you're following up, you can mention, hey, last time we talked a few months ago, you're going to go on a fishing trip. How'd it go? How'd the walleye bite? That makes you act like you care. He handwrites a thank you to every lead that he has, and it's a generic.
That's
thanks
amazing,
so much for taking time to chat with me. It was great learning about where you're at in your home selling process. And he sends that
4 times throughout the year. Yeah, 4 times. I've seen a few homes recently sell in the neighborhood. He says you can find out most folks. So 96 homes, 19 million. That's where the person I talked to yesterday was 40 homes. She could easily double doing this, like in kind of a no-brainer. And here's the best part about this: you don't have to be the one making the calls. Like, it's because they don't know you. They ain't gonna know the person that you have working with you. You know what I'm saying? So if a lot of people go, I just can't do it. I'm a good producer once I get, I'm a great person once I get the lead or once a referral calls and it's warm, but man, the cold calling just kills me. Well, maybe you have someone in the office that is good at cold calling, but they just, for some reason, can't get it to click, So, work with somebody on that.
Exactly. And I have lots of agents who do that exact thing, Scott, where they might have a inside sales agent or they have a virtual assistant who calls on their behalf and then sends over those nurtures over to them to follow up with them as well.
Right, there you go. Yeah.
And this is an agent as well, Rob Chavez. He's in the D.C. area, and he talks about, just owning a neighborhood. And so he has this zone method where he talks about, zero in on your target market. So, originally his was the 62 homes around him, the closest homes around him. Then he got to a point it was the entire subdivision. Now he was doing a zip code. But he talks about when you own that neighborhood, target that area, and then own the mind share. So call everybody, door knock, direct mail, do whatever you can to have everybody know about you. Network with people of influence. So, talk to attorneys and accountants and pastors, business owners, let them know that you're out there, and then engage the community in service, so give back. So he talks about, during the big winter storms, he goes out there and he shovels driveways for senior citizens. He has his realtor jacket on, so everybody kind of knows it's him, but he's giving back, and people love that about him as well. Or it's doing a food drive. Maybe at the next open house you call all the neighbors and let them know that you're having a food drive. We're having an open house for John and Linda, down the street from you. We thought it'd be a great way to maybe have some neighbors come donate some food as well to the local food drive, and then you can take a look at the updates that John and Linda have done to their house.
Okay, get this. So Yolanda, I love the way you think, Yolanda. So she says this sounds like a good idea for a VA. Think about this. So think about this. So what are the results if you don't do it? 0. What are the results if you do it? Amazing. What are the results of somebody that works with you, and you maybe pay them a commission, or maybe you pay them so much per closed transaction, and all they have to do is sit at their house and make phone calls to give the scripts that you already give them to say. And what if they just, holy crap, dude, think about that.
Exactly, yep.
And lots of literally they're going to call and go, got a listing, got a buyer, got a listing, got a buyer. Literally the only time your phone rings is when you get new business from this person doing the business, the calling for you. That's surreal right there. I don't know. That just blows my mind. Okay.
And I talked to Jeff Hallam in Nashville a while back, and he said he made calls to the 35 closest neighbors around that just sold of his, and he couldn't believe how nice everybody was, because he wasn't the 18th person to call that expired that morning, or calling the 4th agent to call that FSBO. He was calling neighbors and letting them know the great news that a house had just sold, and he's like, everybody was so nice to me, and he got numerous nurtures out of it, and literally one of the people he called was like, yep, we just saw your just sold sign on the neighbor's house. We're actually ready to list as well. Yeah, stop over tomorrow. Let's talk.
Unbelievable.
Because people love knowing that information, what houses are buying and selling for.
Right, exactly. Right.
And then when you decide what area you're going to farm, I tell you, Scott, is look at where you've done the most transactions in, or where your spheres of influence are. And if you don't have any of those, start with the area that you live in, or where your kids go to school. the neighborhood where your church is located. Just figure out an area that you want to own and own it.
Right, right. And, again, the legality of a VA making the call that isn't licensed, I don't know if there's, legally, can you say, I don't know, maybe it has to be a licensed agent. That's a good question. I'm not a legal attorney, and I don't know
what I would tell you on that note would be every state's a little bit different on that.
Right.
And then there's different ways, and then each state just figure out the scripting. I've heard from some folks that say, well, as long as the VA doesn't talk about, the transactional price, doesn't talk about numbers or anything like that, and instead they're just calling to invite them to an open house and then creating nurtures that way, that could be completely different. So but definitely do some research on your own before you pull the trigger on something like that.
Sure. And what is a good size area to farm? What's a good farm area?
Yeah, everybody's a little bit different. If you're just starting out, I would say, hey, your closest neighbors, maybe it's just everybody up and down your street that you live on, and categorize it from you. But at some point, it might be 50, it might be 500, it might be 5,000. It doesn't matter what it is. Just make sure just call and make it happen. Have those conversations.
Make it happen. Yep.
And so this is a discount. If you mention make more contacts, or just mention Agent Mastermind to get the discounted rate. And so we have the different options here. I talked about how we have just a true month-to-month for $39.95 if you mention the Agent Mastermind group. You could give even a bigger discount if you buy it up front for the year at $3.95. And like we said, we have that the cell phone and landline option upgrade as well for $11.95. So it comes out to be about $100 a month for that.
And I can't tell you if you just put this in your calendar, tomorrow morning you're going to go from 9 to 11. You're going to pick maybe an open house you're going to do this Sunday, or a listing you already have, one you just sold, something, and do the area around that thing and make. I don't know how you wouldn't have a new, if you use these scripts, and all these scripts are in this PowerPoint, so I'm going to leave it there. But to get a copy of this PowerPoint and recording, just contact the loan professional that sent you here, and we'll get you the scripts and everything. And it's just giving information. It's not about making a sale or getting a sale or getting a buyer. It's just giving information. And those people, it's just a numbers game. It's a relationships game, and it's a numbers game. The more you talk to, how many people have traveled and they sit next to somebody on the plane and they're like, just bought, just sold, thinking about selling, my home's listed. It's just every single time I do that, it's just somebody is always doing that. And you are a good person who can help somebody. And if you already have a listing in that area, or you have just sold, you just did somebody a favor. You are in sales, and that's what you do for a living. That's what provides for your family. So without the system, go door knocking and just knock on doors and say, hey, I just sold a home, or I just listed a home, wanted to give you information about the home so you could kind of get an idea for what the market's doing in your area. Just thought you'd appreciate it. Oh, by the way, we're having an open house on Sunday. If you'd like to come, here's information about that. And here's my information if you have any questions about the local market or what homes are selling for or worth or whatever.
Yeah, and right now we have, a lot of agents have a lot of success too, Scott. We have buyer campaigns. Inventory is so low, and so it's calling in the neighborhoods or door knocking and saying, hey, I have a great family that would love to be in this school district. Homes are just selling so quickly, they haven't been able to get on top of one yet.
Right.
Would you happen to know anybody's looking to sell right now? And we have all those scripts, like I said, of ways to make those conversations, a little bit better as well.
Yep. So there's just all kinds of scripts. There's one for buyers. Buyers tell hey, I have a great family with 2 schools. So there's all kinds of scripts here. So just contact the loan professional. If for some reason you don't have somebody sending you invites and replays, go to, am I showing my screen right now? I think I am.
Yep.
Go to, I'm going to put this 2 things up here, and then we'll let you go. So go to hookmeupamm.com, which will make sure you get the recordings and stuff, and then hooked up with a sponsor. And then the other one, if you're joining us for the first time, is go to facebook.com. It's a group that we have. It's 14,000 strong, and that is the group there. So that is an amazing group. If you have questions about anything and everything, you can ask it on the group privately inside the group, and it's other agents. I monitor that thing like heavy, so I make sure that there's only good people in there that are asking good questions and getting good answers, and it's just a really cool group where people collaborate. So hook me up, AMM.com is if you're not getting invites or replays, and then Facebook.com/groups/Agent Mastermind. And brother, I appreciate you bringing all this to, I mean, to be there, what, 11 years now you've been with this company?
11 years and loving it.
Amazing, bro. So, yeah, if you guys have any questions, further questions, the reason we do have people like this, like Tyler on the call, is because he does have resources for people to double, triple, quadruple your business. It's not a lifelong thing. It's a monthly thing. Get in, get out. If you want to farm a neighborhood, get in, grab your list, and get out. Or if you, you know, God, I mean, you could just take this thing to, like, crazy levels if you wanted to, just by door knocking and then phone calling and just building relationships, and put it that way first. And it's amazing what people ask for after that. So
exactly.
Thanks so much, man.
I appreciate the opportunity, Scott. I appreciate
Thanks
you.
So much, everybody. I appreciate you,
Thank you.
Thanks for what you do. And hey, everybody, I appreciate you guys. Honored to be a part of your lives. See you same time, same place next week, right here on Agent Mastermind. Everybody be safe. Pick up the phones, and we'll see you guys on the web. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.